Hello and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Unfiltered and Functional. I'm your host, Mandy, and I'm here with Sashi, baby, Sashi Ashkabashi.
I like it. I like it.
I know I say this every single episode, but I truly mean it because I just love what we do so much. But this is a really special episode, particularly because Sasha and I are going to be talking about our drug of choice. That's not a PED. And I think a lot of people are going to be very heavily relating to this. Caffeine. This is a hot one. And one of the pondering, like, open lines I had is if caffeine disappeared tomorrow, would society collapse?
I think so.
Yes. I mean, at least in America, easily. Even
And
though
Europe.
yeah, true. I feel like Europeans are a different breed. They're drinking coffee like they don't even care what time it is. They're just like,
No.
yeah, give it to me. Just a couple little fun facts here is that caffeine, if you guys couldn't tell, is literally the most widely used psychoactive substance in the world. And what does psychoactive substance mean? It basically means a substance that will impact your mind. And we all know that.
That's
We all know
crazy.
coffee does that. The point of this episode, it is not to demonize it because obviously Sash and I have a very much love affair with coffee. But we do want to talk about how our relationship with it has evolved and kind of like what we've learned and how to use it a little bit more intentionally and intelligently. And I know you don't have it with you right now today, Sash, but what was in your cup this morning? What were you, what's your preference?
Straight shot of espresso, black
Mhm.
to the face. That's it. Just straight black
She's
coffee.
hard.
Hardcore.
You are
Hardcore.
hardcore.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I used to drink freaking milk with coffee in it, but now it's just black coffee.
You are a blonde.
I
You're the
was a caramel latte with quadruple pumps of caramel and extra milk and this and that. It like didn't even look like coffee. It looked like this.
oh,
And now it's black. Yeah.
you've evolved, you've grown.
I've grown. My frontal lobe has developed.
I love that.
What's in
Similarly,
your cup?
this is our very, so we're a little bit of a coffee, I don't want to say snob household, but we are a little bit, we have high expectations and standards for the coffee that we buy here. This is homemade cold brew. Colin literally will grind the beans and soak them overnight and then strain everything out into a
Oh,
cold
that's
brew pitcher
amazing.
for the
That's amazing.
week. He's more of a hot coffee guy, but so he kind of mostly does it for me, but he'll drink it too because I love my coffee cold. So this is just homemade cold brew with a splash of goat's milk because that's easy for me to digest and a little bit of maple syrup. A little bit. Just a
That's
little bit.
funny. Sometimes I add maple syrup to my coffee too, but I'll put a spoon with the maple syrup in the cup and then run the espresso shot on top of it. So it just like
Ooh, that's smart. That's smart. Guys, if this is giving you some like food porn images, like this is what we're here for. You're in the right company then. Yeah.
literally.
So I want to drop some fun, wild caffeine facts for you guys. I know we talked about like worldwide consumption use, but as far as the United States, roughly 9 out of 10 of adults are consuming caffeine on the daily, which basically means that's almost every single person over the age of 18. That one is
That's
caffeine
wild.
daily. So not just coffee here, because we're not discriminating. Coffee is the number one source though, of caffeine for people, followed by tea, soda, and energy drinks. Give a little shout out. I know there's an energy drink crew listening here, and that's their drug of choice. And basically, the average intake of caffeine for people in the US is about 200 to 300 milligrams a day. I'm assuming that's actually like an underestimation. It is recommended for our health that we consume less than 400 milligrams a day. And I think that should also be kind of taken with a grain of salt because 400 milligrams of caffeine a day is going to affect a 5'1" woman that weighs 110 pounds much differently than it would affect a 6'4" man that weighs 230 pounds.
Yeah.
So, got to kind of take that nuance in stride as well. But because of the amount of caffeine use, dependence, or if we want to use the A word, an addiction, it is very common, which unfortunately for a lot of us means that withdrawal symptoms can start within 12 to 24 hours of not having coffee, depending, or caffeine, sorry, whatever your choice of source is, if you don't get that. When withdrawals kicks in, we've all been there, headaches, irritability, fatigue, brain fog. You're not a pleasant person, hence the psychoactive effect. So, Sash, do you think that caffeine has become so normalized that people like don't even question how much they're consuming or really realize how much it affects their lives?
Yeah, I do because I was one of them. I was one of them that I didn't ever pay attention to how much caffeine I consumed because it just didn't feel like something that was like important enough to pay attention to. And once I started paying attention to was like complete change. I need a coffee. I just yawned. I need a coffee.
Kind of wild to think that it's sort of like the same with alcohol and nicotine. Like it is a drug. You can actually buy caffeine pills. It is a drug. But I don't think people really realize that they might be dependent on it because the
Yeah,
use is just so normalized.
absolutely.
Which, if you don't mind sharing, like when did how old were you when you first started like being exposed to caffeine? And can you take me through your personal experience and growth with it? Because I know, like you said, you did not start by just drinking out straight black espresso and limiting it to like 1 to 2 a day.
No, oh my God. Okay, I think I was either in sixth or seventh grade that there was a Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, it was probably before that I tried my mom's coffee or like whenever we would go out for like dinner. So I don't know if anyone knows this, but I'm Russian. So like I have European roots, and it's
Oh,
very normal that like after dinner with dessert, whenever you order dessert, you also order coffee with your dessert. No matter what time of day it is, whether it's 4 p.m. or 10 p.m., like there's always coffee at night. And I grew up with that being like very normal to drink caffeine very late, to have coffee with dessert all the time. Like my mom's friends would always come over for coffee. Like it was just like always around. So like I had no problem drinking like a cappuccino or like the little sugar sticks that comes with a cappuccino. Like I would take the sugar stick from my mom and like dip it in the cappuccino and like eat it and then like drink some of the coffee. Like it was, I don't even know how young I was when that started, but I vividly remember I was in like sixth or seventh grade. There was a Dunkin' Donuts a couple blocks away from the school. And like after school, when I started walking home alone, like me and my friends, like we would go to Dunkin' Donuts. And as long as I had $5, like I would go and get a medium caramel iced latte with extra caramel and extra this and 15 bumps of caramel and vanilla. And like it started probably with like Frappuccinos from Starbucks. Then those started in sixth grade easily because that was when I was going to school by myself and like I could go and I would ask my mom for a couple dollars so I can buy those. And then from then on, it just like coffee was just something that like I had every morning. Like when I was in when I was in high school, I would go to the bagel store every morning. Even if I was late to school, it didn't matter. I was stopping at the bagel store and I would get 2 cups of coffee because by the time that I would get to school, I would finish one and
oh,
then I would like let the other one like kind of throughout the day. Then
wait,
then
wait,
when I
wait, wait,
started
wait, wait. You were double fisting in high school.
but like I couldn't walk into school with 2 cups because I had to go through metal detectors, so I had to get my ID out and this and that. So I would typically get a small that I would finish. Like as I would, because the bagel store was about 5 or 6 blocks from my school, so it would be like a 10-minute walk. So I would finish one typically like as I'm walking, throw it out on the corner right before I would go through the metal detectors, and then the other cup I would have until like maybe fourth or fifth period because typically my fifth period teacher didn't like us having cups or like anything like that on the table. Yeah, that was my entire like the entire time I was in high school, so from eighth grade until halfway through 11th grade, because that's when COVID happened, and like halfway through 11th grade is when I stopped going to school in person. But then it was just like drinking coffee at home every morning, cup of coffee, multiple times a day. Then when I started going to the gym, it was coffee plus pre-workout, plus if we went out for dinner, coffee at dinner. Like it was, I never looked at, like I was like, this is just a part of my daily routine. This is something that I do every day. This is something that I have every day. And it wasn't until I started working with a coach that my coach was like, "Hey, how much caffeine are you having a day?" And I literally, I didn't even know how much caffeine was in my pre-workout. I was just like, "Ooh, this gets me going." And I was having like 250 in my pre-workout, plus a shot of espresso in the morning, plus a cup of coffee later. Like I was over the 400 mark easily. And I can say that I felt the withdrawals when I cut it down. And like now I'm at a point where I'm like very, very hyper aware about my caffeine intake. And don't get me wrong, like I've when we were in Italy, we still had coffee at night. Like I will still do it from time to time, but I know the effects. Like I know how it affects my body. And like if I'm willing to like do that, like the risk is worth the reward of having that coffee and I'm aware of it. I'm a human. I'll do it.
Mhm.
Like it happens. I'm not perfect, but I also am very aware now of like, okay, I had my espresso in the morning. I had another espresso before my workout, so I'm not having any more caffeine until possibly later because we're going out with friends and I'm a grandma, so unless I have some coffee, I will be out. Like I will not be functioning while we're out and about. So like that's wow, that was a lot. Thanks for letting me roll on about that. But that's the rough timeline of Sasha's caffeine intake.
Sasha's history.
Yeah.
No, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and I mean, some of the things that you mentioned are so common too. I mean, a lot of people, for one, yours had an aspect of like culture to it, right? And how you were raised. So, like, that's one aspect of it. But I think for the average American, a lot of us use coffee trying to like override bad sleep or like as a way to undereat because it can downshift hunger cues. It can
Hmm.
deter that. Some people will try and use it to override stress because it will give you that momentary dopamine hit. And there is a very close relationship to caffeine consumption and anxiety. And using caffeine
This is
to,
true.
yeah, to mask that we don't feel like we have a lot of energy. It can feel amazing when you're stressed out and great, but if you are a dysregulated person, you're going to feel that awful crash later and those withdrawal. I personally went through this. I actually was just telling a client about this yesterday at the height of my nursing at the trauma center. I there was a Starbucks on the way. So I would get off the highway, pull into a Starbucks, get a venti, something, I don't know, it was like a venti cold brew with vanilla sweet cream. I didn't get
Oh, that's
crazy.
so good. The sweet cream foam. Oh, that's
They
good.
didn't have foam back then.
Oh,
It wasn't a thing yet. It wasn't it. Yeah, it was just the creamer, just the sweet cream
oh,
creamer.
oh.
And I'd get like a vent, yeah. And that was my cold brew, vanilla sweet cream with cinnamon on top. I wasn't like crazy frappa mappa mappa. Because yes, you could have like a sugar addiction with a caffeine one, but that's a different podcast. So I would pick that up on my way to the hospital, finish it, and it was a 5 minute drive from that Starbucks to the hospital. That's a lot of venti in 5 minutes. I'd be jacked up, go into my shift, and then we had a Starbucks in the hospital.
Oh, that's fucked.
So then
Sorry.
then I would go and get another venti. And yeah, and I would get it sometimes thinking I was saving myself. I didn't know better at the time by getting like a sugar-free pump of flavor too. Just as a little like a hit. I was like, I need a little something else. And that was already like a very high stress job where I was like very overstimulated and very like stressed, dysregulated. And anytime I would drink coffee, I would quote unquote feel better in the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Almost like now I know what to do. Like now I feel more like I can
Yeah.
organize my thoughts or something. And
Right.
it's
Or like I'm focused, or like it's that like false sense of energy. And similar to you, I didn't really pay attention to my caffeine intake until I started working with a coach. Oh, shoot. And I was doing the Celsius or like a scoop of
Oh,
pre-workout. So I
yeah,
was
yeah,
definitely above the 400 milligrams at that point
yeah.
too. And the way it manifested in my life was like I would shake. Like
I had the jitters
mm,
too.
I would shake, I wouldn't be able to sleep, I would feel constantly anxious. And unfortunately, that was kind of like I had to have a come to Jesus moment and really be like, I love coffee, but maybe this is a self-sabotage here.
Yeah, yeah, I
And
hear you.
yeah, so I think anybody, if if anyone listening this resonates with you, please don't take this as an attack. Just take it as an invitation to have that truthful conversation with yourself. And we're not saying give up coffee because we would never,
No,
but maybe there's an opportunity here where you can use it more wisely, which
yeah,
kind of rolls me into the point that I want to make from a functional perspective. If you're using caffeine to be more productive or to get stuff done or to have energy, there is a way that you can time it to work with your body. Now, anybody that's ever worked with me knows I will say do not have coffee or caffeine on an empty stomach. Have it with food or have it after food. That way we blunt our cortisol response. But ideally, if you do want to use caffeine to make yourself more productive, having it about 90 minutes after you wake up is going to work with your body and with your body's natural cortisol rising. And when cortisol, guys, we're going to do a separate episode on that, but it gets a bad rap for being a stress hormone. But its primary driver in our body is to wake us up in the morning. So if you pair caffeine with your natural cortisol rise, let me tell you, that's a jolt. That is a good energizer, and you're working smart. You're working with your body. You're not adding extra anxiousness or jitters or anything like that.
can I throw something in real
Yeah,
quick? With that being said, though, what are your thoughts about caffeine on an empty stomach?
I'm not going to pretend that I'm high and mighty on a horse up here that I haven't done it before because I have.
Ditto,
And I thought it was great at the time. I thought it was
ditto.
the best thing since Dolly Parton and sliced bread. My thoughts on it now are entirely different once I realized how negatively it was impacting me. And that was a slow process because I didn't want to, I was in denial. I was going through the stages here. I'm like, I don't have a problem. You have a problem. But I realized how much it was truly affecting me. And it was also affecting my physique goals in the gym because I couldn't get my body, my nervous system regulated enough to calm it down to actually make progress. And when you can calm your nervous system down, you drop inflammation so quick. So my stance is if it's here or there, like if you're on vacation, if something's going on, whatever, and you have coffee on an empty stomach, like once in a blue moon, you're not going to die. It's fine. But if you make a regular habit of it, it is going to have an impact on your cortisol and on your insulin. And if you're somebody that is prone to insulin issues, or if you know you're insulin resistant or diabetes runs in your family or you're at risk for it, this habit is one you need to break because it will give you a fast ticket to speeding up that potential dysfunction with
Yeah.
your blood sugar.
What would you recommend is a good breakfast to have prior to having caffeine? Because I know that there's like, oh, don't eat like a banana in the morning and then have coffee. Or like there's certain foods that it's like because of their like micronutrients that it's like better not to have it on an empty stomach because of like the acids in it and stuff. So like I know what my breakfast is and it's for me, it's like Sasha approved. And I'm sure that you wouldn't mind it either, but like, what should people think about? And I know that this derails a little bit from the caffeine, but like, what should they think about having prior to having caffeine, like, as like that foundation in their body first?
No, that's a great question. Thank you. And I definitely recommend any kind of food that's going to have protein and a healthy fat. And if you want to add carbs to it, that's fine. I don't recommend just carbs, like you said, with just a banana, because that is carbs at
Sugar?
the end of the day. Yeah, are sugar to our body. And cortisol loves, it needs sugar to run. So if you're somebody that is insulin resistant or at risk for it, and we're kind of sugar dumping in your system and causing that insulin and your pancreas to work harder, that doesn't functionally make sense. It's kind of going against the problem. But if you eat a meal that has protein in it, that has healthy fats, that's going to blunt that sugar response, if you will, and you're going to have slower released energy throughout the day. So we're not spiking insulin and we're not like crashing out because of sugar. So that would be my recommendation. Definitely protein and healthy fat. If you want to have a carb with all those, that's cool too. Some people want to, I know it was a fad to do the fat bombs in the coffee. Not my personal preference, but that does work. That's fine. You
I
haven't
don't know
heard of
what that is.
this? So when keto was at like the height of its like trendiness, if you will, which another separate podcast because it's a great tool, but not for most people's lifestyle. In this keto trend, they would say if you put butter in your coffee or MCT, like coconut oil, in your
Okay.
coffee, it's fat. So it would help blunt that response that it has in the with your blood sugars. So not my
Mm.
personal choice, not my personal preference. If you're somebody that wants to put butter in your coffee and you like it, okay. I know for a while Starbucks had that like olive oil thing, and then there was like a news article that people were like shitting themselves. So I would say definitely like assess your body and start slow if you're gonna do that.
Yeah. I've never heard of that. I've heard of olive oil espresso martinis. Those are pretty good.
Those sound good. Yeah. If they can make them virgin, I'm all over that, which I guess would just be olive
Ah,
oil coffee.
olive oil coffee. Yeah, there you go. There you
But
go.
it greatly appeals to the Italian in me. Okay, I don't even know where we're at, but to kind of rein it in, Sasha and I both use caffeine now very intentionally, and we shifted it from being like a problem to more empowerment and using it intentionally and wisely. A couple things you can do: definitely get some morning sunlight before you drink coffee or with your coffee if you're going to have some food with it. That's going to, again, work with your cortisol natural response. You can delay having caffeine for 90 minutes after you wake up if you really want to use it with working tandem with your body's processes, and choose different forms of caffeine. Like now, Sasha is probably not going to go to Dunkin' and get a mocha frappa quad caramel, whatever. That's all like sugar. You can be more intentional,
Intentionable.
be intentional, and pick coffee without as much sugar. It's more about like having that mindset, reframing it, being okay with less, not zero. You don't have to give it up. We will never ever tell you to do that.
Because
Just
we're never
respect.
gonna do that.
No, we won't do that. And we lead by example. Just respect the timing, respect the dose, and respect the context of which you are using the caffeine. Sash, what is one boundary that you now have with caffeine?
A boundary that I have with caffeine is the amount that I have per day. But most importantly is I have like a cutoff time for caffeine unless it's again like an exceptional we have a dinner with friends and I might get a coffee there because I'm a grandma and I need to stay a little bit awake. But with that, I'll have less caffeine during the day. So like I'm very intentional. But my biggest boundary is like not having caffeine after a certain time unless it's planned for, thought through, and like thought about, and also like not having multiple different sources of caffeine a day. So like if I'm having coffee, I'm having like my black coffee, keep it simple. Like I'm not gonna have my coffee, pre-workout, Celsius, black tea. Like I drink tea multiple times a day, every day. I love tea, but I make sure that it's like herbal tea. So I'm very aware of I'm not overdoing it. And I also have a boundary where I take one day during the week that I don't have caffeine at all.
That's
So
good.
like this kind of gives me like a little reset. What's one
Yeah.
boundary that you have with caffeine?
I'm a hard cutoff by like 12:31 at the latest, but normally I'm done by noon. That's
Yeah.
my hard one. But while you were talking, I was also like, oh yeah, there are people. Guys, last nugget, totally unplanned. But if you're somebody that has a prescription for like specifically like ADD, ADHD medication like Vyvanse, that is technically a stimulant too. Just take that into consideration if you also do consume things like coffee and pre-workout or energy drinks as well, because that is going to also work on your body the same way that caffeine would, if you will. So just
Yeah,
something, just a little nugget to be aware of too, because I frequently kind of forget about that also in an aspect of like a stimulant use. So worth
that's
mentioning.
very true.
So, Sash, thank you so much for sharing everything that you did with us here today. That's all I have for you guys for this episode. But if you normally I'd say, hey, drop a boundary you want for caffeine. But today, I want you guys to comment what is your go-to coffee order or tea
Ooh.
order or something, because I like to kind of like push the boundaries every now and then, special occasion, try something new. So drop that in the comments. If you guys are curious about connecting more with Sash and myself, you'll have the links in Spotify to Sasha's podcast, Sculpt Sessions, yours on Sundays. And then if you're on YouTube, give us a like. If you're on Spotify, please rate 5 stars. We will see you next Monday.